got a question for you, which is like, are you jealous when you look over at the UK and see like just how well that went? Because the management of that, considering how it might have gone and all the Epstein stuff that we were concerned might come up, and some of the conversations between Trump and Keir Starmer, let's face it, it went pretty well. It went without a hitch. Every time I thought, right, this cannot get any bigger or any more glitzy, massive, like, load of red arrows flew over the top, or a great big golden carriage came wheeling round a corner or something. I mean, it was incredible from in the terms of the pageantry and what the UK is able to produce. Absolutely amazing. And I
I
knew
mean,
it
it's
went pretty well. And
certainly
they
played
got
in the
something
Trump's hands.
shiny to point at with the tech deal. So yeah, I got to be fair. It went pretty well.
Yeah, I get that sense as well, particularly because there's something of substance that came attached to it, right? Multi-billion pounds worth of deals and commitments. So it was substantive, and it was, I think, the UK through Starmer demonstrating a continued ability to stick handle Trump in a reasonable well to the extent that anyone can. But
Mm.
so far, the UK seems to have been doing all right, all things considered, on the Trump side.
I mean, how much of that is tangible if you're a member of the public looking on until we actually like see projects taking place and jobs appearing? I don't know how much that means to people.
I think, yeah, I think that's true. I mean, these things often, although I think I actually read a piece about this yesterday or the day before as well, which is, it's quite interesting that when Trump's last state visit was on, it was generally marred by and reported on by protests, because at that time, Trump was, the hate figure, blah, blah, blah. In the time that's passed since, his brand of politics, the populism, has only been more popular. As opposed to, when he did the last state visit, and the politicians won plaudits by saying they wouldn't attend things with Trump, that he shouldn't come, including many members of the cabinet who were all lined up at the big banquet at Windsor Castle, who were Labour opposition MPs then, front benchers, who were demanding that the state visit be cancelled. It's funny now how much has changed in that brand of populism is on the rise across the world. You see it with reform in the UK. So actually, one of the pieces I read was quite interesting, that actually politicians have an interest now in being seen as being, in some respects, a lie. Whilst most Brits still would look at Trump and say, oh, it's Donald Trump and blah, 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 there is no doubt the issues he talks about, migration, the freedom of speech stuff, because it is resonating with the public, kind of patriotism, secure borders. All of that now is very in vogue in a way it wasn't quite the same last time. So, you kind of like have a interest in looking like you're engaging with some of that. But what it does prove to me really is like, look, his bit with Keir Starmer was less good, although he was very well behaved, was Trump, in that press conference where, journalists were trying to needle him about things they don't agree on. The bit with the royals obviously went exceptionally well, because Trump it's the one thing of having the royal family is like, it's the one thing people still seem to have a bit of awe for, and he greatly respects the royal family. So consequently, he was on his very best behaviour. There's stuff that came out of it. However, to temper it a little bit, I think a journalist asked one of his team at the end of it, like, has this visit made any difference to British influence on Donald Trump? And she said, not in the slightest. So,
No, but I got to come back on that and say, had that really, really gone to shit, that would have had a negative influence.
yeah, it would have a negative influence. I think that's true, but I think the ability of any of this to actually make any difference to how Trump acts, is limited. So, it's.
Mm.
Thatcher had huge influence over Reagan. Bush and Blair had huge, great. The relationship with Trump and a British leader is not in that same. It's not with any leader, right? Because the guy is so unpredictable, just doesn't care, right? And then you saw him at the UN General Assembly. He went full-throated in attacks on the UK and on Europe, and specifically pulled out the UK for some issues. Specifically pulled out Germany, France, I think. So all the things he was on his best behaviour for. A week later, he's at the UN, back to his old self. Some of his criticisms are actually quite justified. But look, it went really well. There seemed to be some good stuff out of it. He clearly has a fondness for Britain because his mother was from Britain. But it's limited in what it will do for the longer term relationship and ability to influence Trump, I think.